Hello everyone, this is ACHAIA Akaya bringing you another 1v1 of the StarCraft 2 beta. This is a 1v1 on the map Steps of War, which is just a two-player map. And this is going to be NonY versus the Red Bandit. NonY, of course, playing as the blue Protoss, and then the Red Bandit is the Red Zerg in the upper right. Casting this game with me is none other than 13 himself. 13, what's going on?
Akaya, how you doing? Very glad to be back with you doing another shoutcast. Now, some of you guys that are a little bit new to the StarCraft universe, I guess, probably might not know this, but NonY was a very skilled StarCraft 1 player and is absolutely dominating the StarCraft 2 world right now. He is a professional in Korea, so we should see a pretty high-level game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. NonY has just a great repertoire. I've seen him do a lot of very cool proxy strategies. So I would like to see something creative from him on this map because, again, this being only a two-player map, both players know exactly where the other one is spawning, and the rush distance between them is so short that proxy strategies and quick rush strategies are often used on this map. Although recently I've seen the game on this map, a lot of the games have seemed to switch to a little bit more of a straight-up macro game. I'm interested to see what happens here, but we'll see. NonY is putting down his first gateway and pylon inside his main base, so I don't think we're going to be seeing any crazy cheese from him, but we'll see if he goes for putting on some early pressure.
And yeah, at the same time, looks like Red Bandit just threw down his spawning pool. I believe that was at his 13th probe, so no cheese from him either.
Right, so it looks like both players are going to be playing a pretty straight-up game, and you actually see that the Red Bandit is actually scouting along the corners of his base to see if there's any cheese going on, and he sees that there's no cheese in the top left, so it looks like he is going to move down. Actually, no, he must have been waiting for that probe to come by so he could put that hatchery down, and it looks like he is going to get the hatchery down without any problems. NonY's one probe is up here scouting and attacking his spawning pool as it's trying to build, so going to get a few extra hit points taken off that spawning pool before he gets any buildings or any units down there to attack. He does have one Zealot coming out right now, so he will probably be sending that Zealot up to join his probe on the offensive, although at this point we do see some more Zerglings coming out for the Red Bandit right now, so we'll see if he is able to hold off this Zealot pressure, because Zealots, of course, are much stronger against Zerglings in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, definitely. I don't believe NonY is aware of that that fast expansion. Yeah, he definitely isn't, and he's got to know it's coming though. He's so experienced. Just the fact that the Red Bandit doesn't have a queen yet and doesn't have any extractors, he's got to know something's up.
Yeah, I would imagine that he is aware based on just what he saw in the main base that there is an expansion up, even though he didn't scout it. But it looks like these Zerglings are going to move out and try to put some pressure on NonY. NonY does have two Zealots on his ramp, but I don't think that that's going to be a hard wall off. Because that ramp is a little bit wider than what those two Zealots can break, although it looks like NonY did manage to scare away the Red Bandit, so the Red Bandit is not going to try to move his Zerglings up at this point. And we do see a sentry now coming out for NonY, so it looks like he is going to have force field with his sentries to defend this ramp, which should keep him pretty safe, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Just real quick, Akai, before this game gets going too much, I wanted to get your opinion on the force field ability. A lot of pro gamers right now are saying that it's just way unbalanced. It gives Protoss a huge advantage. It basically gives you the ability to, change the terrain wherever your army is. What do you think about that?
I agree that it is a very difficult ability to deal with, but I don't think that it is overpowered. And I'm not a Protoss player. I am a Zerg player, so I have seen the force field ability used very effectively and pretty much change the tide of a game, but that can be said for a lot of other units in the game as well. So it's not like Protoss has this one like win button unit. You have to be good at using them, and you have to be skilled enough to place those force fields properly and know where to use them. And you also have to not be hard countered, because there are, of course, hard counters in the game that directly counter those sentries. If anything, we may see, I think we may see a slight nerf on them, where maybe it costs a little bit more energy, or possibly the duration of the force field is lowered a little bit. But overall, I think the ability itself is very strong, and I expect to see it pretty much remain as is for the most part through the end of the
Yeah,
game.
I agree with you. I think that they probably will nerf it just a little bit, mainly just because, a lot of pro gamers who know this game a lot better than you and I do. Believe me, neither of us are even close to the professional level.
Right.
But they probably will nerf it a little bit. I would imagine that they'll create, increase the energy cost of it maybe from 50 to 75 or something like that.
Right. And it does look like NonY has actually gone for his own expansion here. So he does have a pylon at the base of his main base's ramp. So he is going to be able to warp in units here now that he has that warp gate technology researched and up and running. So he will be able to get, as you can see right there, just warping in more units out in the outside of his base. So he doesn't have to actually build his units in his main part of his base and walk them out there. He can just warp them right in on the front lines there, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. I'm noticing all these spine crawlers that the Red Bandit's throwing down right now. Do you think this is a good strategy, going this much heavy static D?
I did just notice that. One thing that the spine crawlers can be very good for, they do, the spine crawlers have an absolutely insane range in StarCraft 2. They have 7 range, which is actually only a couple less than some of the siege units that we've seen in StarCraft 2. I think the highest range unit in StarCraft 2 is the Colossus, and we actually see more spine crawlers going down. So the Zerg player, the Red Bandit, is playing extremely defensive right now. One thing that I will say is that this will actually be pretty good for defending against sentries, because the force field is not going to come into play quite as much when trying to come after these, because these spine crawlers, of course, cannot be split by force field, and they can indeed reach over a force field if force fields are placed directly in front of them. So I think that this would be useful for defending against those sentries, but I do think he may be spending a little bit too many resources on this, because at this point he does have 9 spine crawlers, which is almost 1,000 minerals. So that's a pretty significant amount of minerals he's investing in strictly defense right now. And of course NonY is going to see this, and with the warp gate technology, if he can manage to get a proxy pylon or some kind of a warp prism up in the corner of his base, he can get all of his units right by those spine crawlers if he wants to.
Yeah, and at the same time, it looks like NonY has hallucinated a Phoenix and is basically using that as a free scout to check out exactly what's going on in the Red Bandit space. And
yeah,
he has a pretty good idea what's going on right now.
Absolutely. The high-level players are starting to use hallucinations a lot more. I've seen them used very commonly for scouting. And another thing that I've seen them used for is if you use them at the exact right time, you can make it look like you have rushed a certain tech when in fact you haven't. So basically, the specific instance I'm referring to is a 1v1 that I did see on Steps of War, where basically he hallucinated some Colossi, which then the Zerg player that he was playing against tried to get the hard counters to Colossi, such as Corruptors, Mutalisks, and then Hydras. But when he came in with his army, he had a primarily Zocker Sentry Zealot